Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Grambling podcast. I'm so glad that you're here today. We're talking about everyday leadership and talking to some everyday leaders in all walks of life, because no matter what we do, we have to lead. And if we're going to lead, we might as well lead effectively. So today we have a very special guest with us. We have Michael Umpierre.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. I usually do. I'm good with pronunciations.
Yes, it was only the 50th take, too. I'm proud of you.
Exactly. Well, Michael, it's good to have you. Thanks for being here, giving us the time. And why don't you take a moment, just introduce yourself to everybody and tell us a little bit about your family and that kind of thing.
Yes. So my name is Michael Umpierre. Like Pastor said, I am married to Rafaela Umpierre. We actually met right here at Potential Church. We attended a young adults connect group, and it was God moving the way that she even came to Potential Church. Long story that when you invite me back to your next podcast, we can go into that. But I'm so glad that, she decided to take that step to get into the group, and I was leading the group at the time. And just after a while of getting to know each other, we decided to take that next step. So we now have our first child, Joshua, 2 years old, and we are expecting our second. Dominic will be born in May.
So anyways, you guys met. You got Joshua and Dominic on the way.
That's
so
correct.
I understand Joshua, but Dominic, where does that fit in?
Well, since we're being vulnerable here, we did not have a boy's name picked out. We had our girl's name picked out, but we were obviously very happy to have another boy. And we were kind of just scrolling through names. In all honesty, we did not have any idea what to go with. We wanted something to honor both my side of the family and Rafaela's side of the family. She is Ecuadorian and Italian. And we kind of just landed on Dominic. And then the meaning of Dominic, I believe, is gift of God, or gift from God. And once we saw that, we knew that it had to have some meaning behind it. I know Joshua was... Rafaela will say that it was the day that I met her, but that's a little weird. I would say it's more so when we were dating. I told her that I always wanted a son, and I wanted to name him Joshua, just from the book of Joshua. It's my favorite story in the Bible. It's what resonates the most with me. So we wanted to make sure that the second child had the same meaning as well.
Dominic, you need to make sure that he understands he's named after a very famous basketball player from the 1980s and 90s. Who went to school at the University of Georgia, and then he played for the Atlanta Hawks, and he won the dunk contest. He was very, very good basketball player.
Oh.
For sure. All right. So anyways, I'm sure that won't be important to him, but I'll send you video just so you can show it to him. Actually, just funny story. You probably heard it, but since you've been here for 13 years, but I can send him a video of actually old school videotape, because I have a video of Larry Bird and Dominic Wilkins when both of them had a huge, huge game. It was an incredible, incredible game. Larry Bird didn't win the game. And I recorded it over the only copy of my wedding ceremony.
Yes.
So I would love to have some value in that, maybe send it to
we can pass it down. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at least I feel like it
has a purpose.
Something.
It has a purpose. Absolutely.
Yes. I feel like God maybe made me do that.
For Dominic.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you. I appreciate you doing that all those years back.
So Dominic, you're not born yet, but I want you to know 34 years, July the 15th, I was thinking of you.
There you go.
So
appreciate that.
Anyways, we're talking about leadership, and back in the days of school, were you involved in leading, whether it was in student government or athletics or any of those kind of things?
Yeah, so I was I played baseball my entire life, played all 4 years in high school. I wasn't that great. So I played 2 years of junior varsity and then 2 years of varsity. I would say my role on the varsity team was definitely one of a leader or impact person. Because if I'm going to be honest with you here, I wasn't the best person. I wasn't even starting at the time. However, the coaches made it a point to have me on the team basically because of my ability to speak with people. So we actually, myself and another person, Chris Mendez was his name. I still remember his name. We were both people of, this is coming from the coach, so I don't want to sound braggadocious here, but the coach said that we were people of good character, and that's what they needed because we had star players. We had very good players on our team. But the coaches wanted to make sure we had some people that could kind of level them out a little bit and kind of lead people in the right direction.
So what did you feel like your main responsibility was? Because that's a young age. I mean, you're a junior, senior in high school, right?
Yes. I mean, I specifically remember we had one of our very good baseball players, probably would have been drafted had he not gotten injured. When we went on a trip, we had a trip up to, I believe it was Naples or somewhere. We were doing a baseball trip. And they had both of us rooming with him basically to try to, I don't want to say keep him in line, but to make sure that we kind of rub off our influence on him in that aspect. So, and I think in us doing that with him, because of his physical ability of what he was able to do on the field, people were kind of following him while he was following us in those directions.
So now you're a part of, you have actually a leadership position, part of a local police department.
Yes.
Is there anything you learned back then that you actually apply now in your leadership role?
Oh, man. I would say that everyone is different. Baseball team is not more than, I think maybe we had about 15 people on the squad, and those were 15 different personalities. And I definitely see the same now. I'm in charge of 9, 10 people, and all 10 of them have different ways that I need to lead them. So some of them respond well to certain things. Some of them do not respond well to those same exact things. So I would say the difficulty of, or I don't say difficulty, the challenge is getting to learn how everyone receives leadership best for them.
So let me now flip it kind of the other side. So what have you learned at work as a leader that you've been able to apply at home? Now, again, how old is Joshua?
He's 2.5.
2.5. All right.
Yes.
So as he gets older, there'll be even more to that overlaps.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Because right now, from what I'm told, this is definitely the good age. I love 2.5. I love right now. I'm not a newborn stage kind of dad. That was rough. But right now, showing the love and affection that he does is amazing. So at home, I mean, honestly, what I'm using at home a lot, and I don't know which way it's going, but patience. I don't know if I'm learning that from work and bringing it home or learning it from home and bringing it to work. But knowing that at work, generally, when you say something once, they're going to kind of follow along with what you're saying. Trying to translate that to a 2.5-year-old is a little bit different. So the patience of knowing that, he's obviously not doing it on purpose. He's learning. He's doing just, learning just as much as I am. First dad, and he's, doesn't know what it's like to have a dad, right? So we're definitely learning together in this. So the patience of it, and my wife has been tremendous with that because there are times where it's a lot.
Now, is he busy? Is he the busy beaver, everywhere kind of child, or is he more laid back?
I would put him more in the laid back range, I think. Thank God. But he definitely has his moments. He loves to be outside right now. He loves to walk. He loves to go out and throw rocks. That's his thing. Anytime we take him out for a walk anywhere, he's picking up rocks because he wants to go throw them in the canal in the backyard. He loves to do that. But his phase right now is dinosaurs. Everything dinosaurs. And he's incredibly intelligent. I give my wife all the credit because she's at home with him. She's teaching him everything that he knows. And he is just doing fantastic. So I can't thank her enough.
Now, when Dominique, and don't forget Dominique, I had played a role in your name. But anyways, when Dominique is born, I think one of the things is just like you have figured out on the baseball team and at work, that they're different.
Yeah.
You know, and that what works with one or what connects with one doesn't necessarily. I mean, they're both boys.
Yeah.
You know, they're both same parents. They both grow up in the same home.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like when that takes an amount of patience, not just at home, but like you said, whether it's the baseball team or whether it's the police department, you're in the same place.
Yeah.
Having a lot of the same experiences at the moment.
Yeah.
And yet, we are all different with different personalities. And now, are you more an introvert or more of an extrovert?
Oh, I think it depends on the situation, but I would lean more towards extrovert, I believe. I don't mind holding conversations with people. I don't mind kind of speaking in front of general public or a larger crowd. I do feel fairly comfortable doing that. So I guess I would probably lean more towards extrovert.
Now, serving as an officer and leading officers, there's no doubt that we have lived in a day where there's lots of frustration, confusion, different amounts in different places. So you're not only leading people who are getting a paycheck, but you're also interacting and in a lot of ways leading. I think most people would look at officers as leaders in the sense that you're maybe most people would look at officers as rule keepers, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you've learned in that different where, you are dealing with the public and some things that you've learned along the way when it comes to, especially when it comes to leadership and interacting with people?
Yeah. I think honestly, it's no surprise right now we're a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to our relationship with the public, right? So a lot of people maybe who have never had an encounter with the police already view police officers in a negative view. And I'm not saying all, but that does happen. And what I tell my officers all the time is when you're responding to a call, when you're going to whatever it is that you're going to, you need to go there with the thought that that is your family that you are going to help. Because unfortunately, people don't call us when they're having a great day.
Right.
No one's calling us to say, hey, I just made a great meal, come on over, I want to share it with you. They're calling us in their worst moments. They're calling us when they need help, when they are lost and don't know what else to do, right? And I try to relay that to my officers, and I try to let them know that, hey, these people are struggling when they call, and sometimes we're the very last resort. They don't even want to call, but they just don't know what else to do. So what I try to convey is we want to make sure that no matter what it is we're responding to it as if our own family is calling us.
Yeah. And that's such a important aspect to really to all avenues of leadership. I think a lot of times as supervisors, bosses, sergeants, whatever position, CEOs, whatever position, mom, whatever position that we hold, sometimes we forget of how we're perceived. Because we perceive ourselves through all that we've been through to get to wherever we are, right? Whatever challenge we've faced, whatever obstacle we've overcome, and we perceive ourselves based on our intent. If our intent is to effectively lead, to move the organization forward, to see everybody we're leading succeed at what they're called to do. But a lot of times that's not the perception that others have. If you have authority, if you've had success, if you have different characteristics, then people tend to look at you maybe a lot different than we perceive ourselves. And then as a result, we're leading from a whole nother place from where other people perceive us.
Absolutely.
And I remember when I came, I think it was here. I don't think one of the pastors that was here talked about that. And, made me really give some thought to how you're perceived, because I think it helps you become a better leader. It's like I'm the lead pastor here. So I'll say things and everybody will laugh. But if I wasn't the lead pastor, I know they would not laugh. You know what I mean?
I don't know what you're talking about. Everything you say is so funny, Pastor. It's the best.
Exactly. And it's important that you know that, because if you don't, you can lead ineffectively.
Yeah.
You know, pastors sometimes will leave and go start a church just down the road somewhere, you know,
Yeah.
and think everybody's going to follow them. And, you know, they do for about 2 weeks and then they're gone. And I think whether it's a mom or in any position, really, if you're out there and you're watching, it's important to kind of give some thought, or listening, of course, to how you're perceived. I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think, Pastor, what helps with that is, depending on where you are in life, my wife being real with me, right? And letting me know that, hey, I don't think maybe what you're doing is the right thing. And having someone that you're able to be vulnerable with, where they are willing to say those things to you and you not be offended by it. And if maybe you're not in that relationship, maybe having a mentor that's willing to do that with you. I know that before I got in my relationship, I had a mentor that was willing to pull me aside and tell me, hey, you know, you might want to, you know, either cut that out, or you might want to keep going with this, to get that outside perspective to see things that maybe I don't see.
No, that's a good and important and easy to overlook. And again, not realizing that if we're not intentional about that, people won't feel comfortable enough, you know, whether it's a spouse, a mentor, or someone else to actually tell us the truth. When they do, how we respond will determine whether we get the truth in the future.
Yes.
And that's hard. That's always hard. I mean, you know, rarely do you do something in order to screw up. You know?
Well, if you ask my wife, I guess she might have a different word, but yes.
You know, so when somebody calls you out on it,
Yes.
it's always like, you know, the temptation is just like little kids,
Yes.
right? It's all the reasons why you did it, as opposed to you're right.
Yes.
I screw. The other day, Steph and I it was my birthday, so we went and got a massage, and her birthday is on the 22nd. So, and we're leaving. And the place where we were giving the massage was way too expensive to park. And so let's just say I was a little frustrated. And then, you know, they gave us a $10 off. You know?
Oh, wow.
But the $10 off it was still $17, $27, $17, I think. They told us to go to the wrong place, all this kind of stuff. So I wasn't mean, but I wasn't super kind.
Sure.
You know, I was South Floridian.
Okay.
Let's say that.
That's normal.
And then as we're getting ready to leave, the guy looks at me and he says, Pastor Troy, keep preaching the gospel.
Oh, Lord.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta, right? We're always
That'll bring you down
leading.
a peg. That'll bring you down a peg real quick.
We're always leading, that's for sure. Hey, where do you look for inspiration when it comes to maybe being a more effective leader at work and at home?
Oh,
And even back, well, let's just go all the way back even to high school. Did you look to the coach? Where did you look to your parents? Where did you look to determine kind of how you need to interact with the other players?
I think back then, it was probably the coach as far as leadership goes. But just overall, I mean, my parents were great with me, with raising me, and they did a very good job. They did obviously the best that they can. I want to say overall, though, as far as not just leadership, but a hard work, good work ethic, would probably be my grandfather. Just knowing and hearing, I still remember, I think it was a 6th grade project, either 6th or 7th grade. And we were supposed to do a project on, someone we care about or someone important to us. And I actually got to sit down with my grandfather and I would record the story of how he left Cuba. Because both of my parents were from Cuba. And he sat down and was very vulnerable with me with everything that took place when he was trying to leave communist Cuba. And in hearing that he was sent away, he had to go work in a sugarcane factory where he would pull the sugarcane, separate from his family. They told him that after a certain amount of time period, he would be able to leave with his family, only to then be told after he did his time, only he could leave and his family could not. So he had to make a very tough decision at that moment. And he ended up leaving with one of his very close friends. They went to Spain. They ended up earning enough money to then purchase or buy the rest of their family out of Cuba. But when you leave Cuba, you don't leave with anything.
Right.
They let you leave with a shirt on your back, your pants and your shoes, and that's it. Anything that you've earned over your time there doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs back to the country. And you can't give it away to anybody. You can't, it just goes right back to the government. So just that hard work of knowing that he took that chance, and because of that, I'm here today. And because of that, I have a son. And because of that, I know that people are going to be impacted from here on forward based on that decision he made back then.
No, that's a beautiful, beautiful story, and quite inspirational. Do you think back to him when you get discouraged? I mean, I imagine you've probably heard some of the. It didn't all just go as it was planned. Like you said, he got ready to go, and then the family couldn't go, and all of that. How have you learned how to deal with discouragement so as not to give up? What we hear, especially when it comes to officers, that their outlook is often, there's a lot of discouragement, a lot of depression that happens within because of what they're dealing with, and all of that. So what are some effective ways that you've learned to deal with the discouragement of the workplace?
Yeah, so I'm very glad that you brought that up, because I am a part of a team within our department's critical incident stress management team. And the whole reason we've even formed this team is because the suicide rate for officers is so high. So the reason behind, or what we're seeing, or at least studies have shown, is that we don't do a very good job of taking care of one another as far as officers, right? So like I said before, we're not getting called to houses because they're having, a joyous time. We're getting called there because something is going wrong. And in seeing and viewing that over and over and over again, every single day you go into work, you're not seeing a good day, you're seeing a bad day. And unfortunately, the officers have this mentality right now. We have a mentality right now of, no big deal, brush it off and go to the next one. Because once you're done with one call, you're going to the next one. And it's a completely different, something new is going on. You could go from a car crash to, a domestic incident, to a theft, to a robbery, and it's just back to back to back. And we didn't have the time or the ability, or we didn't want to admit, I think, that we needed assistance. And in seeing all that and compiling it and just keeping it in was and is still doing harm to us in the long run. I believe the statistics right now show that officers after retirement only live an average of 10 to 12 years, which is not good. Yeah. I would like to enjoy my retirement. So we've put together a team, the Critical Incident Stress Management team. And what we're doing now is whenever there is a big incident or something that, affects people, which could be different for different people, we sit down and we have that discussion, and we try to be vulnerable with one another, which is very difficult right now for officers because everyone is type A, alpha, no one wants to admit that anything's wrong kind of deal. But I think we need to try to move on from that, and we need to show that we are human. Just because we wear a uniform doesn't mean we're robots. Right. But we are regular moms, dads, sons, daughters. We're people, and we hurt just like anybody else does. So that was a very long-winded answer for me to say. The way that I like to cope with it is I've done journaling. I've picked up journaling, and I specifically like to write down all the times that God has come through for me. And I can't tell you how many times where I've hit a roadblock where I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And then I'm able to flip back to that, and I see, God got me through this before. Who am I to doubt that he's going to do it again? Right. So that's what definitely has helped me.
No, that's good to take the time to do that. And, discouragement, I remember hearing a gentleman, actually a leader one time, talk about how it's the number one reason that people don't get to where they're going, because we get discouraged. We tend not to see it as weakness to actually to talk about it, or to know where is a safe place in the sense of being able to share, what you're feeling and what you're going through. But the reality is, if we don't, then we become very cynical and bitter and angry. You know, nothing is more heartbreaking to me than when you go to one Walmart or Publix or whatever, and you just see somebody who's older and unhappy.
Yeah.
And you know that they weren't born that way.
Right.
You know, and that maybe they've gone through some really challenging times.
Right.
But the world is filled with people, you know, and that there is a way through it. Yeah. No matter what it is, there is a way through it, and there are others who have gone through it as well.
Absolutely.
You know, nobody listening or watching today is the only one dealing with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And there are others who have gone through it and are more than willing to help you walk down that path. Yeah. Now we got just a little bit of time left. I would like to ask you, you know, I think it give everybody maybe some insight. What is it that made you go into law enforcement? You know, now first of all, how long have you been an officer?
I've been there for 9 years now.
Man, I remember when time goes by super quick.
Yes.
You're getting old.
I am. Oof. Oh, yeah. My wife likes to remind me all the time. She looks for the gray hairs all over my head.
What caused you to go into law enforcement?
I'm going to say it was a little bit of a mixture. So in high school, one of my baseball coaches was the school resource officer at the school. And he was a big influence there on the field, and he kind of showed me, because at that time I hadn't really had interaction, but he showed me that he was a person. You know, he was out there with us, throwing the ball around, coaching us. But then in school, he had his uniform on, and he had to do his job there as well. So I went into banking first, and just for me personally, doing the same thing over and over again every single day, it wasn't fulfilling.
Right.
It just didn't seem like something I could do for the next 20 to 30 years. So I spoke with my school resource officer. I got with him, and he encouraged me. He said, you know what, I think you'd be a great fit. We need people that are, willing like you to go out and do that.
Awesome. Well, again, there's always a story.
Yeah.
And every leader, every person has one. I wanted to ask you, so you go to the academy once you decide?
Yes.
Right. So how long is that?
So you actually get, I got hired first because at the time that we were on a shortage of police officers. So they were hiring people, and then they were sending people to the academy, and the academy was 6 months long. Wow.
So 6 months. And now is it like basic training? I mean, is it mental and physical, or mostly mental, or?
It's definitely a mix, but it's a lot of just learning to play the game. Just knowing that the things that they say and what they're making you do as far as physical wise is just to make sure that you are able to get through it and push through it.
Now, what's something you learned in the academy that has helped you be not necessarily a more effective officer, but a more effective leader? And maybe it wasn't something they taught you. Maybe it's just something you saw in an instructor or another cadet student. I'm not sure what you're called there in the academy.
I would say it's probably more like the servant leadership style. We had instructors who would direct us to run, and then we had instructors who would run with us. And in seeing the difference between the two really motivated us differently. And seeing someone that was riding in a golf cart next to us telling us that we're running too slow, as opposed to someone running in front of the pack, telling us to catch up to them.
That's good.
Yeah. So that was definitely a big one.
That's good. And, that's something we can all do. I mean, whether you're a parent, whether you're an officer or a CEO, whatever role, coach, teacher, is to model servant leadership. Well, it's been great to talk with you. Thank you. Of course, we'll have you come back and share the things you're learning as you continue your journey as a parent, as a spouse, and of course, as a police officer. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening on today's podcast. We're talking about everyday leadership, people just like you who have succeeded in different areas of their life and what we can learn from them. So thanks so much for participating, and Join the discussion, watch and listen on all the platforms. And we'll catch you next Thursday right here on the Troy Grambling Podcast. God bless.